Hello everyone and welcome back to AngularJS Codecademy. So today we're going to be talking about directives. So let's just get started. So here's an AngularJS app for a mobile app store. So something like this, maybe you would want to buy it, and this is one icon that you could click on to buy something, this is another, and this is a third. So in the controller, main controller.js, so in here, there are three objects: scope move, scope shutterbug, and scope gameboard. So I'm guessing that that is referring to these. So yes, you have move, shutterbug, and gameboard, that each contain information about an app, like its title and price. So here we can see their prices, and below we can see their titles as well as who they're made by. In the view in index.html, so in the main HTML, in the .main section, each app is displayed inside a .card div. What it means that there is that their class is card, and main is just the class div main, because as we learned in the HTML and CSS, if you want to define a class in CSS, you have to put the name of the class. So that's why it's referring to .main and .card instead of class main and class card. But looking at the view, the same code is written over and over again to display each app. So as you can see, we have it 3 times to display 3 apps. And we don't really want to do this. This is repetitive and error prone. The more times you do something or repeat something, the more likely you are to make an error. And this is why things like loops are much better. But today we're talking about directives, which we will see how they work. So instructions. In the new file, JS directives app info.js, so let's find that. JS directives app info.js, not HTML. Here we are. Type in this code. You can just copy and paste it, so Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. Let's just look at the code. So we are making a directive, and it has app info and it returns something. We will see how it works. So let's run, and let's go to the next instruction. There we go. Include this new JavaScript file in index.html in line 48. So in the main HTML on line 48. So that's going to be here, where that is. Okay. As a script element. So there, it's going to add the second tag for me instead of me having to do it. And src equals. And then we want to add js/directives/app-info.js. Make sure the capitalization is correct, because sometimes it can give you errors because of wrong capitalization of letters. There we go. In the new file, JS directives app-info.html, so that's the different one. I already have it open in here, but as you can see, JS directives and HTML is right there. Type in this HTML to display an app's info. So let's copy that over to there. And let's see. So we are taking the icon from the app. We are taking its title from the already pre-made in the controller. We are taking these things and just saying what the code does, or what this script does, and it can do it over and over to each one, but without us really needing to repeat it. So we're only going to have one copy of it. So we're taking its title, developer, price, and icon with this script, if you want to call it, but it's actually a directive kind of thing. So in index.html, replace the contents of the first .card div with the new app info element. So as I said before, .card is just referring to the div that has a class of card. So that one, and that one, but it's saying the first one. And we want to replace its contents with the contents of this one. Note that that line and that line are exactly the same, so we don't need to remove those. So we only need to remove the contents, not the actual div statements themselves. So that's the first one done. And then we can do the next two. As you can see, we get the same result, but with three less lines actually. And the more you repeat it, the less lines you get. So now we have 6 less lines, and now we will have 9 less lines. Let's run that. And as you can see, we get the exact same result as we did before, but in much less lines. So let's move on to the next lesson on directives. So what did we just do then? We wrote code to teach the browser a new HTML element, app info, and used it in the new view to display each app's details. First, in JS directives app info, so in here, app info JS, yep, we made a new directive. So we defined the directive. We used app.directive to create a new directive named app info. So I think that was in, no, that was in the other place. So we used app.directive, and let's find that. Yes, as you can see, it's right there, which just creates a new directive. It returns an object with 3 options. So restrict specifies how the directive will be used in the view. The E means it will be used as a new HTML element. So that it means that it's going to be used as a new HTML element. Scope specifies that we will pass information into this directive through an attribute named info. So the attribute is defined in the scope. If you wanted to define another attribute, then you could just put it in here and put its attributes in. It probably doesn't accept more than 1. It might do, but yeah, you can experiment with that. For now we only need 1, and in this case it's going to be info. The equals tells the directive to look for an attribute named info in the app info element, so like this. So app info equals Shutterbug. And so what that does, okay, let's find, no, not that. Have they removed it? I'm just looking for the controller. Here we go. So this is the info, and it's going to look for that info, and which is how that works. So it's looking for the information. The data or data info becomes available to use in the template given by template URL. Template URL specifies the HTML to use in order to display the data in scope.info. Here we use the HTML in JavaScript JS directives appinfo.html. Let's look at that. Template URL. Okay, so looking at JS directives appinfo.html, where we are right now, we define the HTML to display details about an app, like its title and price. We use expressions to filter and filters to display the data. So expressions, it means the double curly brackets, and filters, it means the pipe with something else after it. Then in index.html we use the new directive as the HTML element appinfo index.html. So here we have the, oops, I actually deleted the line that says it's directive. So let's do this, let's copy that, just so that it's clearer where the directives are. So that's where the directives are. Let's run just to save it. We pass in objects from the controller's scope Shutterbug, into appinfo elements info attribute so that it displays. So that's just an example. We also pass in gameboard and move. So let's move on. Why is creating your own directives useful then? So readability or readability. Directives let you write expressive HTML. Looking at index.html, you can understand the app's behavior just by reading the HTML. You don't, sometimes if the code is really messy, so if there was loads of code here, repetitive, and you saw it, then you might be wondering why is it repeated, or you would be confused as to what's going on because there's so much of it. But like this, you know exactly what's going on, because once you see something like this, you will straight away look at app info. You will see that that one phrase is repeated, and you will look in the JS, and you will look in the directives and just see in here to see what app info actually does, so that you don't really have to do much else. So, and then you also have reusability, which is very useful in programming. So directives let you create self-contained units of functionality. We could easily plug in this directive into another AngularJS app and avoid writing a lot of repetitive HTML. So basically you could just copy this over to a completely new file, a completely new web page, a completely new app or whatever, and you could reuse it there. If it was just on here, then you would have to import everything else. But if it's like this, then you could use it much more easily. In the controller, there is a new property, scope.forecast. Display this property in the view by creating another div class equals card element containing an app info element. So in the controller, here we are, scope forecast, here we go. Display this property in the view, so in index.html, by creating another one of those. So that's quite easy. I can just copy this, but instead of game board, I can have forecast. If I can remember how to spell it. There we go. And as you can see, by just copying one small section and putting the name of it, I get a completely new card with all of the correct information. If I didn't have this, then what I would have to do is import the price manually, import the image manually, import the title manually, as well as the who it's by, the author. But now, by just writing its name down, I can have it instantly, or almost instantly, depending on how fast the server is. So moving on to our last lesson for today on directives, and that's going to be it for directives for now. So we know that AngularJS comes with a few built-in directives like ngRepeat and ngClick. Usually built-in things from programming languages are the most efficient. So that's why it's good to use them if you can. If they do what you want them to anyway. So we've seen that AngularJS makes it possible to create your own custom directives, such as app info. We can use Angular's built-in directives together with custom directives to create more readable apps. For reference, here's how to use ngRepeat. So let's see. So we have a div which has ngRepeat of product in products. Then it has an image which we use the double curly brackets for, as well as the title. And then okay, so in instructions, in the controller, create a new property, scope.apps. So we are in the controller. Set it equal to an array of objects. That's easy. Equals. Oops, does it not like it? That should be fine, I think. Or did I put it in the incorrect place? Okay, we'll see once I am finished with it. Create a new, set it equal to an array of objects. So this is our array. And that should be fine. Okay, 1 second. So how you're actually supposed to do this is do scope, oops, I meant $scope equals apps, no, $scope dot apps equals, open that. A mistake I realized I made was I added a second curly bracket there. Make sure you don't do that. And then inside of here you can just copy and paste that, and everything should be fine. Let's copy and paste that properly. I don't think I did it properly. There we go. Let's just delete the extra. Actually, no, you don't need the curly brackets at all. So just delete the curly brackets. Just make $scope.apps equals square brackets, everything inside them, and then square bracket close, and after that square bracket put a semicolon there. And now that is done, let's run it. And good. Now we need to add 2 more objects here. So basically I will just copy this and add something random that I can kind of think of. Maybe I can think of Flappy Bird, but that's it. So I'm just going to go with that actually. Title Flappy Bird, and I'm going to keep the image, the same images. Let's use that for there, and I don't know, that one for the other one, for this one. That's fine. And then let's change the prices. I know that Flappy Bird is free, but I'm going to make it $9.99, and I'm going to make this one 0.49, and I'm going to call it Angry Birds. I think that that's separated. I'm not too sure, but oh well. Doesn't matter for the sake of the example. Developer unknown. I just can't remember their name. And then again, unknown. That should be fine. Let's just make sure. And good. So after you've added your 2 new elements, which in my case are Angry Bird and Flappy Bird, as I said, you need to go back to index.html for step 3, and in the view use ng-repeat to loop through scope apps and display each element. To do this, add ng-repeat to a div class equals card, and then use the custom directive app-info to display each element. So before you do that, what the output is going to look like is this. And then if you do this, so let's just follow the steps. So we define a new div, because that's the best thing to do. Give it a class of card and close that. And also we need to give it an ng-repeat directive, and we want to be going through apps. So we want to do something in apps. That's a must. So it works kind of like a for loop. So if you think of a for loop, you have something like for n in array. Apps in this case is our array, and it's found in main controller. We don't need to define that because it's already defined up here that it's in main controller. So we're saying something that's in main controller, which is apps, and something which is in apps we want to call. You can put any name for this. The best one in my opinion is app, because it's one single thing. You can use n. I will demonstrate how you can do that. And then inside of here, what you want to do is use the app info equals that, and then in here you want to take the information of whatever your variable was here without any expression. So if you do this, let's see what shows up. As you can see, all 4 things show up. So you have Move, Shutterbug, Flappy Bird, and Angry Birds. Now, just to demonstrate that this can be anything, you can put app in there, and as long as you change both of these things, it should still work. But if you only change one, then it's not going to work. I'm going to show that as well. So if you change that to something like that, but don't change the second one, nothing is going to show up. If you change that to if you change this to something else, again, nothing will show up. And this is because you're saying call the first thing, well, call the thing that you're looking at in apps, app. And then here you're saying display this thing called app. So if you're saying here call this thing app and then you're saying display something else, then unless you've defined that something else somewhere else, you're not going to get anything because it doesn't exist. Same thing for the other case. So if you call this thing something else and you call this app, then it's pretty much the same thing. So once you run it, let's just see the end result. You should get something like this if you're using my code. And that's it on directives. So next lesson we're going to be doing those four. Install app, whatever that is, we will find out. And it's going to be a mystery. So if you guys enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe. If you didn't, give me a dislike, a thumbs down, and tell me in the comments down below why you didn't like it so that I can improve for next time. But until that next time, thank you guys so much for watching and goodbye.